Hello, I'm Annie Woodford, and I'm so thankful to be here for the Bad Mouth reading series and for Rebecca Aronson, who organizes this and who invited me. Thank you so much. The first poems I'm going to read are from my book Bootleg, which was published by Groundhog Poetry Press in 2019. Here in the mountains of North Carolina, people are already talking about the possibility of seeing snakes and how to avoid encountering snakes. And this poem is sort of written about hearing that all my life. There's an artist in Callens, Virginia named Norman Amos who makes these beautiful walking sticks. He finds sticks in the woods that have a vine that's grown around them, and he makes walking sticks out of them, and he turns the vine into a snake. So this poem is about that. It's called Snake Cane, after Norman Amos. Sometimes Virginia creeper, a tendril of honeysuckle or wild grape will wind around the limb of a young hickory, and as both grow, squeeze its spiral into the wick. Old women who tap the ground before they walk, ready to rap danger on its head. Tobacco farmers well versed in the habits of serpents carry such twisted sticks. Search for them in our tick-breeding woods, mumbo-jumbo of undergrowth, full-throated green, saplings bent, knitted together with briars, May-apples pushing past skunk cabbages, and then the dying that comes with the first frost. Oak leaves baked brown, and sycamore platters curling inward on the ground. Poison ivy dried up to one hairy vine thick as a man's wrist. Step down into the furrows of an old roadbed, deer stand draped in black, quiet as wildness itself, easy to miss among the doe-legged trees. Daddy sang, "I'm the man who rode the mule around the world," voice ragged as a forgotten trot line. "I was born 10,000 years ago." Brightleaf tobacco cured in the smoke. I tended the low fires. Black night rustled up close, and sometimes I caught a glimpse of a thing. The cedars breathed by the fence row. You have to find the wood first. Branch of desire wound round with grapevine, nearly strangled and then growing on anyway. I'll paint it like a shining rattlesnake, body spinning up the stick. Your hand will rest on its head, devil eyes subdued, looking up at you, fangs following the way the handle bends, benign in their whiteness, polished by hand sweat and the oily traces of 100 dusty hunts. Mountain feists yapping along with the rhythm of the staff, rabbit cry dark as dried blood in the autumn wind. Silent rattles cover the end that hits dirt, seeking strikes in high summer's high grass, feeling a human way through deep leaves, hollow eyes, rocks holding heat, or shaking the snake-rich shadows of blackberry canes before the hand reaches in for the fruit. And I'll read one more from my book Bootleg. And this one is kind of written about a certain kind of salamander that you can find in the mountains, in the Blue Ridge Mountains and in the Appalachians. I'm not sure if it's found other places, but I think it's like a stage of salamander, but it's called eft, a red eft, and you'll see these little red salamanders in the woods in the springtime. Eft. The red salamander spotted last year among the woods' rain-soaked leaves, pulsing with a riddle I have yet to figure, will be full grown now and hidden among moss and mud, its fragile glow gone, except as an image I recall against the muted brown slopes, the young and dripping trees, the whole humming southeastern hillside, timbered at least twice, but growing now, oaks, rising above understory. The next poems I'm going to read will be in my second book, which will be coming out from Mercer University Press in the fall of 2022. A couple of them were published in the Anthology of Appalachian Writers, which is a wonderful publication from Shepherd University in West Virginia. And this particular volume was a real honor to be included in. It was dedicated to the Appalachian writer Crystal Wilkinson, whose amazing book, Blackberry, is one I would recommend for anyone to read. She's the new Poet Laureate of Kentucky. So this first poem was written about a filmmaker who did a lot of his work in Roanoke, Virginia, which is where I lived before I moved to the mountains of North Carolina. And his name was Oscar Michaud, and he was a black filmmaker who really chronicled lives and stories of the black community in America in a time when that really wasn't given any presence in the film industry that had any real humanity to it. So it's pretty amazing that he existed and that he filmed films in Roanoke. Unfortunately, a lot of his films were lost, either through neglect and through fires and so forth. So he was a filmmaker of the silent era. But I went to a lecture in Roanoke about his films, and it was so interesting to hear the community talk about the places that they recognized in the little fragments of film that the presenter showed. So this is called Upon Attending a Lecture about the Lost Films of Oscar Michaud. In the films that burned long ago, in the films that melted, that succumbed to damp heat, that unspooled in the gutter between here and a dreamer's last best chance, a woman who would have been known here in Roanoke pats her mink coat. A hedge that would have been known here in Roanoke surrounds clapboard houses that would have been known here in Roanoke, sways and wavers to silent music, each spindle alive in the flow of celluloid time. The plot goes, she passes for white. The plot goes, this is our original pain. Now it is remembered, those streets were burnt for urban renewal. Now an old man remembers a film flickering in a rented school cafeteria in the Jim Crow era. Now more old people are getting up and pointing out in a picture projected on the wall where all the lost churches once stood. Because in Roanoke during the urban renewal era in the 1960s, dozens of churches were destroyed to build the interstate and the Coca-Cola bottling plant. The other poem that's included in this anthology gets its name from the logo that went around Pete Seeger's banjo. This machine surrounds hate and forces it to surrender. And it has a refrain from an old mountain song, Dig a Hole in the Meadow. I don't know. I think it's sometimes called a Little Dory. On the mountain, beside this mountain, lights shine up in the tree, too bright and late to be explained, that side of Turkey Cock Creek. The Klan is votive these days. Old Scratch is showing his face, though it could just be four-wheeling boys. Even so, I'm afraid. The white hood hangs on the back of bedroom doors, red satin stole hand-stitched with black thread. Dig a hole in the meadow, dig a hole in the ground. Before the grave is closed, a man takes up the mantle, a familial ceremony for the grandson sharpened by prison time, mind mashed down by pills, a son-in-law, a cousin of the secret stomp down, our father who stockpiles ammo, handgun sliding from truck console into view. Dig a hole in the meadow, dig a hole in the cold, cold ground. What do you think about banjos? The animal skin pulled tight, the body a pan of animal skin, a moon made of suffering, giving back light and percussion. To dampen the clawhammer's call, tone down that wire gut string song broadcast out the body toward the body. Some stuff rags in the backs of banjos. What do you think about rags in the backs of banjos? Dig a hole in the ground, dig a hole in the cold, cold ground. The player is female, the player is young. Her dark curls cut short, her race blurred as the origins of ballads. She takes the rag out from behind the dowel and drapes it, a scrap of paisley silk, across the back of her bare neck, then enters the tune where she left off. Your liquor has ruined my body. I've known you from old. Calling out louder now, chimes of bird flight and deer flight between bright branches. The next poem I'm going to read was the one of the finalists for the 2020 Auburn Witness Prize from the Southern Humanities Review, which was such an honor for me. I've loved this literary magazine for years. And this is about my new home here in North Carolina. I live right next door to Wilkes County, and I work in Wilkes County, and one of the primary industries in Wilkes County is a big chicken plant in the middle of town. So this is called Wilkes County Posada. Come equinox, come solstice, the Tyson chicken plant will turn golden. The turning, lifting, safety signs, hiring bonus signs, the refrigerated trailers waiting to be pulled away, the puddles of nameless muck, the narrow smokestack spilling white steam. The pear trees planted along the street will turn crimson, turn purple. Oh, little town, your fathers come home smelling of blood and chicken funk. O county of many poultry houses and children who believe in the FFA, white feathers fly out of cages stacked on trailers, the birds inside them unable to stand. Somewhere tonight, a mother is pulling on steel-toed boots and taping up the cuts on her hands. She's planning Christmas with every naked bird she disassembles, with every wing cut free from the body, with every body wrapped in plastic. Somewhere outside of town tonight, perhaps where the old racetrack buckles as frost falls and thaws, where fields of winter wheat flow, the Christ child is being reassembled, continually reassembled, toe by shining, tiny toe. Mortal rib by mortal rib. His hair is thick and black. His eyes are deep brown. He wears a onesie from Walmart. His mama works the night shift or is in a fentanyl doze, or he doesn't even have a mama, but a grandma whose hands, crimped up from some sort of repetitive labor, trace a bumblebee's flight toward his laughing belly. And the cold gathers around us like the three wise men, and the chickens are kneeling in the slaughterhouse, and the cows are kneeling in the field, and our space heaters sometimes short out, and trailers are made of many flammable materials. Fighter jets from Fort Bragg make practice runs over us. The terrible stars sometimes fall, and we are asleep in the valley. We are asleep in each other's arms. Thank you so much.